think it's about time we do a video on Shornemead Fort. What do you reckon? I think there's no better way to do it than put a helmet on and go on a bike. Let's go to Shornemead Fort, come on. I know you're going to love it. Shornemead Fort has to be one of the most documented forts in Kent, and this is due partially because of its location and also mainly because of its ease of access, which entices fellow ramblers and bike riders the opportunity to divert and take a look. If we look back on the fort's past, really it was only a matter of time before a fort would have eventually been built here because of how strategic its position on the bend of the River Thames is, giving excellent field of fire with the ability to engage anything in the river from Gravesend through to Cliff. It was Lieutenant Hartcup who in 1794 recognised how important placing a gun emplacement would be on the site, providing excellent defence should a fleet of enemy ships head through to the Thames to attack London. And even though Gravesend and Hillbury already had forts, the army knew that they wouldn't be enough should an attack take place. So, in 1795, 3 batteries were created: Shornemead, Coalhouse Fort in Essex and Lower Hope. Originally in its first phase, it was a small pentagonal structure and only had 4 24-pounder guns. It was, however, the defeat of Napoleon at Waterloo when the battery was first abandoned. Then, it was in the late 1840s when it was decided to rebuild both Shornemead and Coalhouse Forts, with greatly improved armaments of the rifle muzzle loading type, providing more range and accuracy to try and counterbalance the new ironclad ships being built. However, the marshy ground causing massive subsidence and flooding on which Shornemead was placed would start to become the thing that would eventually seal its fate. With minor roles in both world wars, it was finally deactivated in 1945, and its final blow came when it was demolished in the 1960s by the Army Demolition School of the Royal Engineers as part of a training exercise. And what you see is being all that's left of this once forgotten role in the defence of the River Thames. So let's begin our wonderful journey of Shornemead Fort, and what a better place to do it than slap bang in the middle. And what you've got to imagine is that actually the whole site of what you're looking at is actually it's obviously different now, but it's really hard to imagine that even back then this would have been a very intimidating place to come to. Now, if you can see, that's where the tunnel entrance is, and then that little red bag is where I park my bike with my Wellingtons. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into those tunnels. We're going to go into the ammunition stores later, although I've got a very funny feeling from experience I'm not going to get too far in. As you can see here, you've got the Environmental Agency are out in force today. And as you can see, here we are on the casemates, the main bulk of the action, which is crazy. Actually, he's not Environmental Agency, he's one of the people who's going into that substation. Let's not get distracted by that. Whew. There's really not much here that's left, so everything you do see, you know, is a welcome bonus. And what you've got to imagine is that this whole path here, this is really where the underground section is, and then every section underneath would have been where your ammunition stores are, or your magazines for that. So as you can also see, originally where those huge like concrete Lego bricks are, they used to be places you could drop down into, and I know that very well because in fact at one point, we're talking about 10 plus years ago. I think it was that one. I managed to drop down into it, and it was my first sort of spider in the face moment. Whereas I went down, there was like a huge cave spider that basically greeted my face, which was delightful. And people wonder why I hate cave spiders. But as you can see, these would have been to help with the shutters. So you've got this, and then also you've got the turreted ring here. Really turreted ring, I suppose, probably the right way. I'm not verbal on these types of things, but you can see that there's a track, and obviously that would have guided the gun to manoeuvre in whatever direction. So yeah. And then up here, so like I said, I'm trying to give you a brief first person guide here. And then up here you can see that would have been part of a observation tower that would have stood. Unfortunately now it is just a pure mesh of wires and steel wires framing. As you can see outside here, looking out. Isn't that amazing? And then you can see over there, you can see, or you probably can't, but literally where my finger's pointing is the East Hillbury World War II radar, which I've done a video on as well, so you can have a look at that. Just type it in on the description below, which obviously signifies that Coalhouse Fort is literally there as well. I wish you could see this as well, but my poor, you see a red speck just there, that's my bike and everything. Oh dear. I love this journey though, riding on my bike. I sort of need to do it more often really, because I'm not that far away. No excuses really. But yeah, so much graffiti, so much everything really. Bottles, the usual sort of stuff that you'd expect. I always wonder though, I wonder when people look at these structures that they don't look up. Because to me it's a vital thing that when you do look up, 9 times out of 10 you get to see some incredible brickwork, or at least you get to see the curves and the dimensions of this amazing fort. Sometimes that gets overlooked, but I've picked a very beautiful day for it today. It's very early in the morning, the haze, and obviously you can see why the workers of the environmental agency had been chasing me down. Then obviously the electrical substation, I think is that, I might be wrong, I have no idea over there. I don't really care, to be honest. So what we'll do is we'll just keep walking across and we'll have a look around the rest of it. Let's go. Okay, so as is customary with Phoenix history, we always want to know where the toilets are, don't we? Or where the toilets would have been. Well, in fact, what you've got to do is, if you want a point of reference, where we walked up here, just about where we walked up here, it would have been on the opposite side, and these would have been the latrines that would have been here. Then, another point of reference, if I sort of just stand a little bit here on this angle, that's obviously where the gun emplacements stop, but as it would have carried on, and it would have been in this corner here, you would have had the officers' mess and the canteen. And it would have been on this side of the fort for obvious reasons. So the idea is you've got obviously the gun battery facing outwards, and obviously with this huge thick wall that they've emplaced, obviously behind it you would have had the officers' quarters and the canteen, etc. And then the latrines would have been right here. Then if you carry on, you would have been able to, originally there would have been steps to walk up onto the, obviously the upper floor, and it would have been situated just around here. But as we know, it's very hard to tell with a lot of this stuff now, especially with the fact that Obviously it was, it's been demolished so badly, obviously throughout the years. But like I always say, if you can capture moments of this fortification in its true sort of sense, if it can sort of take you back, then that's really what it's done. It's done its job then, hasn't it? It's sort of done its way of trying to sort of encourage you to sort of have a look. Right, so we're now heading into what would have been the old gun emplacement, what is labelled as the old gun emplacement. And again, you can see these extremely big rails that would have been used to guide the gun around. And there's a vast difference between these ones. There's 3 here than the classic ones that we have over there. Now, I need to walk up, have a look. It just amazes me that every time I come here, how different it always looks. And like I always say, you know, I confess that I only have been down into the magazines once, and that was way back when, like I said, about 10 years ago, and that was well over there when they hadn't filled it in. So it's quite nice. It's quite nice to sort of have the opportunity to go down in there, and we will do. So just be patient, and we will have a look. But yeah, this is the last gun, or the last old gun emplacement that would have been here. And yeah. Wonder if you'd get... What I find interesting about Shornemead Fort is what I'm trying to sort of suggest or trying to say is that if you do come here, have a listen. And that's going to sound a bit strange and a bit odd, but what I mean by that is have a listen and see if you can hear what you reckon might be different sound wise as to when this fort was in action. Would you hear these sort of certain sounds of men working over there with these electrical instruments? No, you wouldn't really. What would you have heard? What would you have seen, more importantly? And that's really our next thing that we're going to do. So we've started here. We started walking around the top level. We're going to head out, and we're going to have a look at the iconic look of Shornemead Fort. And then what we're going to do is we're going to head down. And we're going to head down into the belly of the beast. So we've now made our way around. Really what would be the most iconic bit of Shornemead Fort is in, if you typed in on images, you're normally going to get the image of the outside of the fort, of the casemates. And this is what I was saying to you about the observation tower. That's obviously its roof that you could see, but you can see how much, you know, it's completely gone from view now, in terms of it just being completely demolished. But again, if you look at how beautiful the building is from the outside, you'd assume that as you walked in, it would reveal a treasure trove of secrets. However, it's not that. In the scheme of things, it's not a cliff fort. It's definitely not a coal house fort, and it's definitely not a Hillbury fort. But that again makes it its own unique thing, doesn't it, really? So let's do the classic thing that I always do with my forts. We'll put everything into context for you. Down the road to your right would be East Hillbury Fort. To your left is New Tavern Fort, or Gravesend Fort for some of you. If you look directly in front of me, you've got the Coalhouse Fort QF wing battery, which I've done a video on. Coalhouse Fort's there. And then, round the corner, you can see where the land is, like that. Round the corner there, that is East Hillbury Battery, which I've done a video on. And then there, that little blob there, Finger of Doom, is Cliff Richard Fort. So that puts our forts in perspective. It's a little bit misty today, like I said, it's an early morning dew, so you can't see too much, but you can see enough And enough of looking at my ugly mug, we need to look at the fort itself. So we're just walking around the perimeter now. There's some meaningful graffiti here, just as much as there's some graffiti that is just graffiti. Is that a polite way of saying it? Glorious day, like I said today, not too much wind. Perfect for a bike ride, which is what I'm obviously doing. And when I used to, back in the day when I was a teenager, I used to catch the bus into Gravesend and then walk from New Tavern Fort here. So it always brings back memories in that respect. But we just hang, you know, when you're a teenager. Do you remember that word? Used to hang out. I used to hang out a lot in Maidstone. That was really my main town that I would hang out in. But if I wanted something a little bit more different, I used to come here. Sometimes I'd come here on my own, and then sometimes I would come here and see some friends. And that was it. That was my personal experience, but we never really went into the underground bit. We just really wasn't for us, really. I know it sounds a bit stupid, but yeah, the iconic Shornemead Fort. I'm not going to climb all over all of this. There's no really. Is there any need? No, not at all. And what we'll do is we'll simply just drop back down in. What I might do is walk through the gun emplacements. Let's see if we can get round in then. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Three, two, one, go. It's like parkour for old men. The difference is that when you're old you make them weird noises like ugh. Oh, yeah, there we go. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is on the top of Shornemead Fort. You can see that it's very easy to climb on this side or across, but not really much to look at, is there, really? Because you've got an amazing view just here. Whew. Okay, so I know a lot of you are going to moan and sort of say, we didn't go in there, can't fit, obviously. However, not really much to see in there. Again, I remember when I was younger, going in and out of all this sort of stuff. But yeah, so what we need to do now is we've had a look on top. We've sort of roughly spoken about what was here at the fort. Obviously, like we said before, casemates, latrine, officers' quarters and everything else that would have been around there. Steps originally would have gone from about that side. We had a look on the outskirts of it. We saw the guns from we saw the guns from the outside. Now what we need to do is we need to do the inside bit, and that's the bit that I'm looking forward to now. I don't know if I've mentioned it already, but I have brought wellies with me. However, I know from experience that that's only going to take me so far today. So as long as I get to record at least one casemate, magazine, or ammunition store for all of you out there, that'll do for me. Because from memory, when I dropped in when I was younger from one of these, I still remember it being pretty flooded. I got very wet, wasn't good. But when you're younger, stuff like that don't matter. But nowadays, when you get old like me, priorities change. And also back then, I remember distinctly the smells of that I basically needed to, get a hose and hose myself down afterwards. You'll probably find it out when we go in there. But let's have a look. Let's actually go in there, have a quick look, have a quick get out of there, because it's a warm, sticky day today. And the last thing I want to do is have a bath unnecessarily. So let's have a look. See you in a minute. Right, hello. So we made it inside. Yeah, thank God, because it's been a while since I've been down here, and everything seems to change every time I come down here. But hey, let's give it a shot. So, oh, the flooded area, so amazing. Not. And obviously I've got my wellies, so all prepared. Or relatively prepared anyway. Main tunnels and passageways. What I've got to try and do is try and do it so that you get to. Hey. It's quite exciting actually, because I've never done this and filmed, so it's all going to be a bit of fun. I wonder if I can try my other torch instead. That's way better. Sorry everybody, torch change. That's way better. This is so much fun in terms of, I've genuinely never done this before, where I'm having to hold on. Now, I'm probably going to come unstuck now, because that's as far as the boulders are going to go. So this may be the last bit you get to see, which is normally further than I normally go. It's beautiful white. The graffiti that's here, and obviously this is really one of the main reasons why they got this eventually disbanded, because of it being flooded. But let's be honest, I don't really need to go any further in, do I? Because that is literally, that is our ammunition magazine on this one. Working my way back. So yeah, and that's the other corridor. There you go. Can you see that, everybody? There you go. Cool, let's turn around. Oh God, I've never done this before like this. Then you can see little corridor passageway. So we made it. As you can see, it's still very, very deep. Sorry, sweating. That's very deep, but again, so we see all our ammunition storage was. The question is to try and get as far as we can without getting too badly wet So you can see we're walking down the corridor. This actually might be our last stop, unfortunately. I don't think. Yeah, no. We didn't make it, anybody. We got fairly close. So what happens is that these magazines that are exactly what you're seeing in there, they just literally follow the whole passage around Shornemead Fort. So that's all. But you can see, I don't know if you can actually, but it's a bit of a wader's job for me. Unfortunately, I've only got my Wellington, so I can only go as far as what I can do, really. But what it does do is it proves how wet and flooded this place actually can be. But the detail is incredible still. The fact that this is still here. Now I know a lot of people have obviously gone round into the tunnels a bit further, but to be honest with you, you're not really missing out on anything. You know, there's no sort of unique holy grail that's around the corner. But the most important thing is that we did go into the tunnels, well, the magazine, the lower area, and we did have a look. And that is the most important thing, and you got to see a couple of magazines, which is really what I wanted to show you, because really it just repeats itself as you go around. So there you go. Next time, waders, I think, just to get a true perspective. But the brickwork, like I said, is absolutely incredible. How brilliant. But the corridor is long. So what you've got to try and do is just imagine the fact that really that just tapers around. But so many people have been in here. It's crazy, really. And obviously that's the other way in that we went to begin with, just so we could look around. So you've got a proper look at least one of the magazines. It's the most important thing. But let's get out now. We'll carry on our journey. That was fun. Right. That was cool. I've just cleaned myself off. I've done everything I needed to do. Just a quick couple of things that I wanted to sort of make a context. So what we're standing at now would have been roughly the area of where the gun store was. And then there would have been a wagon hut here as well. And then if you look outward, originally there would have been a very fancy garden that would have backed off onto there. And then obviously, as you can see, the main road from Shornemead Fort, as we sort of came up, that's where we sort of entered from. And I thought I'd just sort of show you all of this as well. Again, nothing special. Well, for me, for some of you, you probably think this is amazing. But for me, it's probably because I've been here so many times before, it sort of loses its love. But yeah, so we've done it all. Top, middle, bottom, I think. Or, yeah. Top, outside, bottom. We'll do it that way. But the sad story of Shornemead Fort, really, isn't it? I mean, that's really what it encompasses. It's a sad story. But what I love is that take away its sad, decrepit state. Ignore that. But think of all the adventures all of you probably watching have been on when you've come here. The amount of videos online, the amount of people who've explored this really is testament to this place anyway. So, in a positive way, trying to put a positive note on Shornemead Fort, even though it is a complete ruin now, it still brings joy to a lot of people. And even though there's graffiti, bottles, spray cans, everything here, burning bonfires, usual stuff, which I normally frequently moan about, in this instance, in this exceptional instance, if it has brought people joy, if it has inspired people to go on other adventures, because let's face it, if you're an adventure lover and you're local to Kent, this really has to be the number one place to start with. And I often used to say that to people when people would say, like, you know, if you had a couple of places as a beginner to start with, Shornemead Fort would be number one, and then joint with that will probably be a place like Reculver Church or Towers, and then you could get into more adventurous stuff like the Isle of Grain Tower, and then keep going really, and then you'd head into Medway and start becoming more and more adventurous with the whole like HMS Wildfire and the Royal Marines barracks, you know, the deep marine shelter, I suppose it was called, wasn't it? But you know, like, what a place to start, what a place to come and just enjoy. And, you know, like I said, you know, go down into the sort of tunnels. They're not really tunnels, are they? They are, but they sort of link up, like we said before, with the casemates. But if you want to start your own adventures, this really has to be one of the best places to start, to get limbered up, to understand, you know, history. Obviously, that's really obviously where my love comes in, the love of history. But yeah, I thoroughly recommend that if you want to start your journeys, your exploring, no matter how old you are, by the way, you're never too old, to start a new adventure. And come down here. It's easy, it's simple, and even if you don't manage to go down into the magazines, it's okay, because there's still enough on top to make for an incredible adventure and a day out. And that's got to be the point, hasn't it? That's got to be the fundamental point of why. And hopefully, if you watch my video, if you watch the billions of videos on this place, which is why I always said I was a bit reluctant to do this one, just because it's been done to death, you'll hopefully be a bit more wiser, and you'll learn a little bit more as you come down here. So in the immortal words of Phoenix history, thank you as always for watching. Thank you for coming along with me. And if you've seen a million videos on this and you decided to watch my video just as much, then thank you for doing that. And hopefully you appreciate that I didn't go too much exploring wise into it, because, like I said, you know, so many people have done it. But that you enjoyed it. That's the most important thing. And yeah, thank you. And because history matters, and it does in a place like this, doesn't it, with so many stories still left to tell, and so many memories for people like you out there who are wanting to come down here to make. Any more words of Phoenix history? I'll see y'all very soon. Goodbye for now and take care, and thank you so much for your love, kindness and your support. It really means a lot. Stay tuned. See you later. Kapow! See ya.